Madarame from Genshiken has always been one of the most relatable characters in anime for me, and not just because he gave the weird anime sex speech way before I did, and I've repeated his version of it to countless people throughout my life. Genshiken is kinda like Friends, but for otaku. If you hang around in nerd circles, you probably know someone who parallels each of the major characters, and if you know me, then you would connect me to Madarame immediately. It's not so much that Madarame is proud of himself or legitimately all that self-confident. I've never been either of those things. Madarame is simply confident in the worth and power of otaku culture. It's not about himself, it's about what he stands for. As long as he can explain why these things are good and why they matter, then who are you to say that they aren't or don't? Madarame positions himself as a leader, but it's clear that he's too lazy or ineffective to lead any real projects larger than just finding reasons to hang out with people he actually likes and can enjoy communicating with. His boisterousness, however, belies an abject fear of being honest with his emotions, especially when it comes to relationships. After all, a man as single-mindedly passionate as this one will be completely obsessive over his partner, and to be that way is asking a lot of them to be willing to put up with. Perhaps as a result of having to work so hard to justify his hobbies to regular people throughout his life, he comes off as overly forceful with his opinions even in the presence of other otaku, demanding that they not just accept him and his views, but to fully understand them. He will go on and on analyzing the media he likes while forcing his friends to listen until he's confident that they know what he's talking about. He's also willing to be direct with his friends and to call them out on what he thinks they're doing wrong, especially if he hears them complaining. Reading this page again, I almost can't tell how much I happen to be like Madarame and how much of my personality might actually just be the result of reading this manga as a teenager, because I had already resonated with him so strongly back then, and my other otaku friend was so similar to Kugiyama that I must have had this exact interaction in direct reference to this page more times than I can count. Having said that, I was never able to truly imitate his purchasing style, even if my mentality was exactly the same when I was younger. I used to exclusively use my money on purchasing physical media, because I didn't see the value in buying anything impermanent. How could I possibly spend $10 on a meal when that $10 could buy me a manga? Luckily, by the time I actually started making real money, I realized that I'd gotten so picky that it was harder to actually find things I wanted to buy than it was to spend money on them. And I love good food almost as much as good stories, so I never had to cut my living expenses to buy porn. I'm sure I don't even need to tell you that I'm always the guy most loudly belting the anime songs at karaoke with my otaku buddies. Even Madarame's taste in anime is hilariously relatable to me, appearing to be a combination of hardcore mecha shows, cutesy magical girl shit, and Miyazaki films. Honestly, if I'd been as knowledgeable as he was and about the same age circa 2002 when this page came out, I wouldn't be surprised if my list had been exactly the same. If there's one moment which truly encapsulates my spiritual connection to this character the most, however, it would be the time he slips and breaks his hand on the way into Kamike. First of all, there's his regret over not making an Akira reference right after it happened. When I read this manga the first time, I hadn't yet read the Akira manga, but when I got to the bit he was referencing, I immediately thought about Genshiken, and then have continually thought about my own regret over not making the same reference after injuring myself several times. More broadly, my mind is constantly swarming with anime references to make in every situation, some of which I regret not coming to mind fast enough to have said at the right moment in the company of people who would have gotten them, and a great deal more which I've swallowed thinking no one would get it and then couldn't stop thinking about it anyways. Secondly, this ended up literally happening to me at Otakon 2014, when I infamously broke my foot while doing karaoke of the Log Horizon opening theme. Of course, one of many major cultural differences between Japan and America is that over there you would be encouraged to immediately seek medical attention if this happened to you. Over here you might get constant reassurance from your friends that it's probably just a sprain and not to worry about it too much, because none of us wants to spend the night in a Baltimore hospital or find out what it would have costed to go there if the injury turned out not to warrant it. But most of all, what I connect with in this scene is when Madarame calls out from the stretcher his demands for the others to purchase double copies of anything they get so he can pay them back later. It's kind of implied that the others find this demand ridiculous and that they won't do it, and when I was a kid, I thought they were all being total dicks for having that attitude. Did they not feel sympathy for the man who cared the most about this event and was going to be carried away without hardly getting to participate? Of course, now I realize that it's Madarame's priorities which are out of order here. Obviously, no one needs to own a cavalcade of exclusive porn comics, and the shelf life of a physical media collection isn't even all that great if you're someone who changes their mind a lot. I once thought that the bit where the Genshiken has to toss their collection was the most abjectly horrifying scene in manga history, and I couldn't wrap my head around how all of them took it on the chin so easily. Now I feel like if this happened to my own collection, there'd be some sadness mixed with a little bit of relief that at least I don't have to lug all this crap with me every time I move from now on. I don't want to project on Madarame too hard, so I'll just talk about myself for this end bit. I've always been awkward, strange, and difficult to deal with. There have always been aspects of myself which I didn't care for or felt were limiting me as a person, which I've hoped to change about myself. But growing up, the things I was accused of being wrong about were things I knew were not wrong of me to do or think or like. I was made fun of for the way I looked and the things I liked, and I could never understand how other people didn't appreciate those things or found them problematic. Now that I'm an adult, I realize that these were just the tangible details of a larger issue, which is simply that I was dark, quiet, unusual, and uncharismatic. I thought that if I could convince other people that it was okay to be me by explaining the reasons I liked the things I like, then that would be enough. But I couldn't figure out the root of why these people felt the ways that they did or how to meet them halfway, if such a practice even had value to me. As a natural course of being constantly rejected by everyone, I decided to reject them all back, and to search for people who were willing to accept me as the person I was. Even online, it was never easy, just because my approach to communication was so wrong-headed. But over time, I collected those people, both offline and on, and then continued searching until I found even more people whom I could connect with in an even deeper and more fulfilling way. It was only in finding these people that I gained the self-confidence and sense of belonging which eventually allowed me to branch out from there and confront the world and other people on their own terms. It was no longer about proving myself right, but about making people realize what they were mistaken about on their own, while also enriching my own ability to understand and connect with them. But I haven't even continued past the original Genshiken manga yet to see what Madarame might be like closer to the age I am now, so I'll cut myself off here. If you want to help me in my continued experiments with communication, support me on Patreon. If not, well, why not? Ya bitch! See you tomorrow.